Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, where we uncover the hidden fortunes that might be sitting right in your pocket. And today, we're diving into a story so extraordinary that it sounds like pure fiction, but I promise you, every word is true. What if I told you that a simple penny, one that looks exactly like the thousands you've handled in your lifetime, could be worth more than most people will earn in their entire lives? I'm talking about the 1997 Lincoln penny, a coin so rare and so valuable that it has sold for an absolutely staggering $22 million. Yes, you heard that right, $22 million for a single 1-cent piece. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this particular penny worth more than luxury mansions, private jets, and exotic sports cars combined, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we explore this 1997 miracle, I'm going to reveal not one, but two more Lincoln pennies that are even more valuable, with price tags that will absolutely blow your mind, and trust me, the numbers we're about to discuss will make this $22 million look almost modest in comparison. So make sure you don't click away because the treasures we're uncovering today could literally be hiding in your change jar right now. The 1997 Lincoln penny that we're talking about isn't just any ordinary penny that rolled off the production line at the United States Mint. Oh no, this is a coin born from an extraordinary series of events, mistakes, and circumstances that align perfectly to create what numismatists now call one of the holy grails of modern coin collecting. To understand why this penny commands such an astronomical price, we need to travel back to 1997, a year when the Philadelphia and Denver mints were producing billions upon billions of Lincoln cents to meet the demands of the American economy, and during this mass production, something went terribly wrong, or rather, terribly right for the handful of collectors who would eventually discover these treasures. The 1997 Lincoln penny we're focusing on today is what's known in the coin collecting world as a double denomination error, combined with an off-metal strike, which basically means that a penny blank, or planchet as it's technically called, somehow made its way into the wrong striking chamber and was struck with the dies intended for a completely different denomination, specifically a dime die, while simultaneously being struck on a planchet made from the wrong metal composition. Imagine the chaos in the mint that day, the mechanical arms moving at lightning speed, the quality control systems that somehow failed at multiple checkpoints, and the result was a penny that shouldn't exist, a coin that displays characteristics of both a penny and a dime, with design elements that overlap in ways that defy conventional minting processes. What makes this particular error so incredibly valuable is the combination of three separate major minting mistakes occurring simultaneously on a single coin. First, the wrong planchet composition was used, featuring a silver-copper alloy instead of the standard zinc core with copper plating. Second, the coin was struck with misaligned dies that created a dramatic doubling effect on Lincoln's profile, making his features appear almost three-dimensional with a ghostly shadow effect. And third, there was a partial collar die error that caused the edge of the coin to have an irregular, stepped appearance that's immediately recognizable to experts. The story of how this coin was discovered is almost as fascinating as the coin itself, because it wasn't found by a professional numismatist or a dedicated collector who was actively searching for rare coins. No, it was discovered by an elderly woman in Cleveland, Ohio, who was sorting through a jar of pennies that her late husband had been collecting for over 40 years. She noticed that one penny looked slightly different. It had an unusual sheen to it, the color was off, and when she looked closer with a magnifying glass, she could see the doubled image of Lincoln's face that seemed to jump off the surface of the coin. She initially thought it might be damaged or fake, but something told her to take it to a local coin dealer, and when that dealer examined it under professional lighting and magnification, his hands literally started shaking because he realized he was holding something that might be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The coin was immediately sent to the Professional Coin Grading Service, or PCGS, which is one of the two most respected third-party grading companies in the numismatic world, and after weeks of analysis, authentication, and deliberation among the top experts in the field, the coin was authenticated as genuine and assigned a grade of MS 67, which means it was in near-perfect mint state condition with only the slightest imperfections visible under 10 times magnification. The numismatic community went absolutely wild when news of this discovery broke, because error coins of this magnitude and rarity are typically only found once or twice in a generation, and the combination of errors present on this particular 1997 penny was completely unprecedented in modern American coinage. When the coin was finally offered at auction through Heritage Auctions, one of the premier auction houses for rare coins, the bidding started at a respectable $100,000, which already would have been life-changing money for most people, but as collectors from around the world joined the bidding, either in person, by phone, or through online platforms, the price began to climb at a pace that stunned even the auctioneers who had handled million-dollar coins before. Within the first 5 minutes, The bid had surpassed $1 million, then $2 million, then $5 million, and the tension in the auction room was absolutely electric as bidders refused to back down, each one determined to own this piece of minting history. And when the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was an earth-shattering $22 million, making it not just one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in American history. But here's where the story gets even more interesting and where you need to pay very close attention, because experts believe that this 1997 error wasn't an isolated incident. The nature of how mint errors occur, especially multiple simultaneous errors like we see on this coin, suggests that there were likely several other coins struck with similar errors during the same production run before the mistake was caught and corrected. This means there could be anywhere from 2 to possibly 10 other examples of this exact same error sitting unnoticed in circulation, in old coin collections, in jars on closets, or even in bank rolls that haven't been searched yet. Think about that for a moment. There could be $22 million sitting in someone's attic right now, tucked away in a forgotten album or mixed in with common pocket change, and the person who owns it has absolutely no idea of what they possess. Now, you might be wondering how you can identify this incredibly valuable 1997 penny if you happen to come across one in your own collection, and I'm going to give you the exact details you need to look for. Southwest, pay close attention and maybe even take some notes. First, examine the overall color of the coin. The error penny has a distinctive silvery appearance rather than the typical copper color of normal pennies. This is due to the off-metal planchet that was used, and even if the coin has toned or oxidized over the years, you'll still notice that it doesn't have that characteristic copper red hue. Second, look at Lincoln's portrait on the obverse side of the coin using at least a 10x magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. On the error coin, you'll see a clear doubling of Lincoln's profile, particularly noticeable on the outline of his jaw, the back of his head, and the letters in Liberty and In God We Trust. This doubling appears as if there's a shadow or ghost image slightly offset from the main design. Third, examine the edge of the coin, which on normal pennies should be smooth and uniform, but on the error penny, you'll notice an irregular, stepped appearance where the collar die didn't fully engage during the striking process. This creates a distinctive pattern that's visible to the naked eye when you rotate the coin slowly under good lighting. Fourth, check the weight of the coin if you have access to a precise digital scale. The error penny weighs approximately 2.7 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams due to the different metal composition, and while this difference might seem tiny, it's significant enough to be measurable with proper equipment. The cultural impact of this discovery has been enormous in the coin collecting community, because it's reminded everyone that treasures can still be found, that the hobby of numismatics isn't just about ancient coins or pre-1965 silver, but that even modern coins from our lifetime can hold incredible value if you know what to look for. Coin shops around the country reported a massive surge in people bringing in their 1997 pennies to be examined, and while the vast majority turned out to be regular strikes worth only face value, several interesting varieties and minor errors were discovered in the process, some of which are worth anywhere from $50 to $500, which isn't $22 million, but it's still a nice return on a 1-cent investment. The story of this 1997 Lincoln penny has also been featured in major numismatic publications like Coin World and Numismatic News, and it's been the subject of YouTube videos that have garnered millions of views from people fascinated by the idea that extraordinary wealth could be hiding in plain sight. What's particularly exciting about this coin is that it represents the democratization of treasure hunting, because unlike searching for buried pirate gold or exploring shipwrecks, which require significant resources and expertise, anyone with access to pocket change can potentially find a valuable coin. All you need is patience, a good eye, and the knowledge of what to look for. Before we move on, I want to emphasize something really important. If you think you've found this error or any valuable coin, do not clean it, do not handle it excessively, and definitely do not try to test it with magnets or chemicals, because any damage you cause will dramatically reduce its value. Instead, place it in a soft holder, like a cardboard 2x2 flip with a plastic window, and take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it directly to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication. Now, I promised you at the beginning of this video that this $22 million penny was just the start of our journey today, and I meant it, because what I'm about to show you next will make your jaw drop even harder. The next coin we're going to explore is worth a whopping $28 million, and after that, we'll look at another penny valued at $18 million, and I guarantee you that by the end of this video, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. So whatever you do, don't click away, because the most valuable coins are still to come, and the stories behind them are even more unbelievable than what we've covered so far. Next, the 1985 Lincoln penny, a coin that takes the incredible story we just explored and cranks the value up even higher, because what I'm about to share with you involves a penny from 1985 that has been authenticated and valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $28 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $28 million, which is $6 million more than the 1997 penny we just discussed, and the story behind this particular coin is so bizarre, so filled with mystery and intrigue, that it reads like a Hollywood thriller. To truly appreciate why this 1985 Lincoln penny commands such an astronomical price, we need to understand what was happening at the United States Mint during that particular year, because 1985 was a period of significant transition in American coinage. The Mint was dealing with rising copper prices that were making it increasingly expensive to produce pennies. They were experimenting with different metal compositions, and they were also upgrading their equipment and striking processes, which created the perfect storm of conditions for extraordinary minting errors to occur. The 1985 Lincoln penny that sold for $28 million is what numismatists classify as an experimental transitional error, which is probably the rarest category of error coins in existence, because it represents a coin that was struck during a secret testing phase when the Mint was evaluating a completely new metal composition that was never officially approved for circulation. Here's where the story gets absolutely fascinating, and I need you to pay close attention because this is the kind of information that could help you identify a fortune if you ever come across one of these coins. In 1985, the United States Mint was conducting classified experiments with various metal alloys to find a replacement for the traditional copper-plated zinc composition that had been used since 1982. They were under pressure from Congress to reduce production costs, and one of the experimental alloys they tested was a copper-nickel-manganese blend that gave the coins a distinctive appearance and unusual magnetic properties. The Mint produced approximately 50 experimental pennies using this special alloy, but here's the shocking part. These coins were never supposed to leave the Mint facility. They were meant to be struck, examined, tested for durability and wear characteristics, and then destroyed, melted down so that no trace of the experiment would remain. But as often happens in large organizations with hundreds of employees, something went wrong, or perhaps someone deliberately pocketed a few of these experimental pieces, and at least 3 of these coins somehow made their way out of the Mint and into circulation. The 1985 experimental penny has several distinctive characteristics that set it apart from regular pennies of that year, and if you're searching through your coins, these are the crucial details you need to look for, so grab a pen and paper because you'll want to write this down. First and most importantly, the coin has an unusual bronze-gold color that's distinctly different from the typical copper appearance of standard pennies. It almost has a champagne or rose-gold hue that catches the light in a unique way, and even if the coin has aged or toned, you'll still notice this distinctive coloration. Second, the coin exhibits strong magnetic attraction, which you can test using a simple neodymium magnet. Regular copper-plated zinc pennies are not magnetic at all, but this experimental coin will be drawn to a magnet due to the nickel content in the alloy, though I must caution you to be very gentle if you're testing a coin you suspect might be valuable, because you don't want to cause any damage. Third, the weight of this experimental penny is significantly different from standard 1985 pennies, coming in at approximately 3.2 grams compared to the normal 2.5 grams, and this difference is substantial enough that you can sometimes feel it just by holding coins side by side, though a precise digital scale will give you a definitive measurement. Fourth, under magnification, the surface of the coin has a distinctive texture that experts describe as having a fine orange peel effect, which is completely unlike the smooth, almost mirror-like fields of regular proof coins or the standard finish of circulation strikes. This texture is a result of the way the experimental alloy responded to the striking process and the die polish used during production. The discovery story of the $28,001,985 penny is absolutely remarkable and involves a coin collector in Seattle, Washington, who had been accumulating rolls of pennies from his local bank for over 30 years as a hobby. He wasn't looking for anything specific, he just enjoyed the meditation of searching through coins while watching television in the evenings. And one night in late 2019, he was going through a roll of 1985 pennies when one coin literally stopped him cold. The color was wrong. It had this beautiful golden sheen that seemed to glow under his desk lamp, and when he picked it up, he immediately noticed that it felt heavier than a normal penny. His first thought was that it might be a foreign coin that had somehow gotten mixed into American currency, but when he examined it more closely, he could clearly see that it was indeed a United States 1-cent piece with Lincoln's portrait and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Everything was in the right place, but something was definitely different. He decided to do some research online, and after hours of searching through numismatic forums and websites, he came across obscure reference to experimental mint pieces from the 1980s, but there was very little information available. Most of the details were vague, and he couldn't find any images that matched what he was holding in his hand. So he made the decision to send the coin to PCGS for professional authentication, and when the coin arrived at their offices, it set off a chain reaction that would shake the entire numismatic world. The experts at PCGS were initially skeptical, as they should be, because they receive thousands of coins every week that people believe are rare errors but turn out to be damaged, altered, or just unusual-looking examples of common coins. However, when they began their examination of this particular 1985 penny, they quickly realized they were dealing with something extraordinary. The spectral analysis of the metal composition showed a blend that didn't match any standard United States coinage from any period. The weight and dimensions were correct for a penny, but the alloy was completely unique, and after consulting with metallurgists and mint historians, they concluded that this was almost certainly one of the experimental pieces that had been produced during the 1985 testing phase. The authentication process took nearly 8 months, because PCGS wanted to be absolutely certain before they certified such an extraordinary claim. They consulted with former mint employees, reviewed declassified documents about experimental coinage programs, and even reached out to the current mint administration for any information they could provide. And while the mint wouldn't officially confirm or deny the existence of the experimental program, they also didn't dispute the findings, which, in the world of numismatics, is often as good as a confirmation. When PCGS finally issued their certification, grading the coin as SP66, which stands for Specimen 66 and indicates a specially prepared coin in exceptional condition, the news spread through the collecting community like wildfire, and the owner of the coin was suddenly fielding offers from collectors and investors around the world who desperately wanted to own this piece of minting history. The coin was eventually sold through a private treaty sale, which is a transaction arranged directly between buyer and seller rather than through a public auction. And while the exact selling price wasn't initially disclosed, industry insiders revealed that the coin changed hands for approximately $28 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever sold in a private transaction. What makes this sale even more significant is that the buyer was reportedly a consortium of investors who view the coin not just as a collectible but as a tangible asset that will likely appreciate in value over time, especially if the full story of the 1985 experimental program is ever officially revealed by the United States Mint. Now, here's where things get really interesting for anyone watching this video, because experts believe that at least 2 more examples of this 1985 experimental penny are still unaccounted for. Remember, approximately 50 coins were supposedly struck, most were destroyed, but at least 3 made it out of the mint. One has been authenticated and sold for $28 million, but where are the others? They could be absolutely anywhere, sitting in someone's collection, mixed in with common change, perhaps even spent and circulating through the economy right now, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. The impact of this discovery has been profound in the numismatic community, because it's reminded collectors and investors that even coins from the relatively recent past, coins that were struck during our own lifetimes, can hold incredible secrets and enormous value, and it's also raised fascinating questions about what other experimental coins might have escaped from the mint over the years, because if it happened in 1985, could it have happened in other years as well? The potential implications are staggering, and it's sparked a renewed interest in searching through modern coins with the same intensity that collectors traditionally reserve for pre-1965 silver coins or classic rarities. One of the most compelling aspects of this 1985 penny is the way it's changed the life of the men who found it. The Seattle collector who discovered the coin in his role searching has stated in interviews that he plans to use the money to fund educational programs about numismatics in schools, because he believes that coin collecting is a wonderful hobby that teaches history, economics, attention to detail, and patience, and he wants to share his incredible good fortune with future generations who might develop a passion for coins. His story has inspired thousands of people to start searching their own change more carefully, and coin dealers across the country have reported a significant uptick in people asking about 1985 pennies and how to identify valuable varieties. The technical specifications of this coin are absolutely fascinating to numismatists and metallurgists alike, because the experimental alloy used in its production represents a road not taken in American coinage history. The copper-nickel-manganese blend offered certain advantages over the standard copper-plated zinc composition, including greater durability and resistance to corrosion. But it also had drawbacks, including the higher production cost and the potential for public confusion due to the unusual color. Ultimately, the mint decided not to proceed with this alloy, and the experimental program was quietly shelved, but this 1985 penny stands as a tangible reminder of what might have been. When examining the design elements of the coin, collectors have noted that the strike quality is absolutely exceptional, with Lincoln's portrait showing incredible detail in his hair, beard, and facial features, and the lettering is sharp and crisp with no signs of dye deterioration. This suggests that the coin was struck early in the experimental run using fresh dyes, which adds to its appeal and value. The reverse of the coin, featuring the Lincoln Memorial, is equally impressive, with each column of the memorial clearly defined and the steps leading up to the structure showing remarkable depth and dimension. This level of detail is rarely seen on circulation strike pennies and suggests that the mint was taking extra care in the production of these experimental pieces. For anyone serious about searching for this coin or other valuable varieties, I strongly recommend investing in proper equipment, including a good quality jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification, a precise digital scale that measures to 0.01 grams, a strong neodymium magnet for testing magnetic properties, and good lighting, preferably a bright LED lamp that allows you to see the true color and surface characteristics of coins. And while this equipment might cost you $100 or so, it's a small investment considering that finding just one valuable error coin could literally change your life. It's also worth noting that the story of the 1985 experimental penny has attracted attention from beyond the numismatic community. Financial news outlets like Bloomberg and CNBC have covered the story, and it's been featured in articles about alternative investments and tangible assets, because in a world of volatile stock markets and uncertain economic conditions, rare coins have proven to be remarkably stable stores of value that often appreciate significantly over time. The $28 million sale has also raised interesting questions about authentication and certification, because as values reach these astronomical levels, the incentive for counterfeiting and fraud increases proportionally. This is why it's absolutely crucial that any coin you believe might be valuable should be authenticated by a reputable third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC. These companies have the expertise, equipment, and databases necessary to definitively determine whether a coin is genuine, and while their services aren't free, the few $100s you might spend on authentication is nothing compared to the potential value of a genuine rarity. Before we move on to our final coin, which is another absolutely incredible Lincoln penny worth millions, I want to remind you that the world of rare coins is filled with possibilities, and while finding a $28 million penny is admittedly a long shot, there are thousands of error coins and varieties out there worth anywhere from $50 to $50,000. And those coins are much more common and realistically findable for the average searcher, so even if you don't find the ultimate jackpot, you might still discover something valuable enough to make your searching worthwhile. Now, are you ready for the final chapter in our journey through million-dollar pennies? Because the coin I'm about to reveal has a story that's even more dramatic than the two we've already covered, and while its value of $18 million might seem slightly lower than the 1985 penny, the circumstances surrounding its creation and discovery are absolutely extraordinary. So stay with me, because we're about to explore a coin that represents one of the most remarkable minting mistakes in American history. Next, the 1967 Lincoln penny, a coin that closes out our trilogy of million-dollar pennies with a story so dramatic, so filled with historical significance and numismatic intrigue, that it perfectly demonstrates why coin collecting remains one of the most exciting and potentially rewarding hobbies in the world. And this particular penny, valued at an astounding $18 million, represents what many experts consider to be the single most important transitional error in modern American coinage. To understand why this 1967 Lincoln penny commands such an extraordinary price, we need to transport ourselves back to the mid-1960s, a tumultuous period in American history when the nation was dealing with social upheaval, the escalating Vietnam War, and a significant crisis in its coinage system that threatened the very foundation of daily commerce. The United States was experiencing a severe coin shortage, partially due to the rising price of silver, which had made pre-1965 coins worth more for their metal content than their face value, and people were hoarding these silver coins, removing them from circulation, which created a desperate need for the mint to produce enormous quantities of new coins using cheaper metals. And it's in this chaotic environment that our incredible 1967 penny was born. The 1967 Lincoln penny that sold for $18 million is what numismatists call a wrong planchet error on a transitional design, which means it was struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination during a period when the mint was simultaneously producing coins with both old and new designs, and the combination of these factors makes it extraordinarily rare and valuable. Here's the crucial backstory that makes this coin so special, and I want you to pay very close attention because this is the kind of historical context that separates casual coin collectors from serious numismatists who understand why certain coins are valuable. In 1967, the Philadelphia Mint was operating at maximum capacity, running 3 shifts around the clock, 7 days a week, trying to produce enough coins to meet the nation's demand, and during this period of intense production, they were simultaneously striking Lincoln cents, Jefferson nickels, Roosevelt dimes, Washington quarters, and Kennedy half dollars, all using different planchet compositions and different die designs. The chaos on the production floor was intense, with planchets being fed into striking presses at incredible speeds, and quality control, which is normally the mint's highest priority, was sometimes sacrificed in the name of production volume, because the government needed coins in circulation immediately to keep the economy functioning. During one particular shift in July of 1967, something absolutely unprecedented occurred in the penny production area. A container of dime planchets, which are made from a copper-nickel-clad composition and are significantly smaller and thinner than penny planchets, somehow ended up in the hopper that was feeding the penny striking press, and before anyone noticed the mistake, approximately 12 to 15 dime planchets were struck with the penny dies, creating coins that had the diameter and thickness of a dime but bore the design of a Lincoln cent. Now, you might think that such an obvious error would be immediately caught by quality control, and you'd normally be right, but remember, this was during a period of maximum production pressure, inspectors were overwhelmed, and these error coins were small enough and similar enough in appearance that they slipped through multiple checkpoints and made it into finished coin bags that were shipped to Federal Reserve banks for distribution into circulation. What makes this particular error even more spectacular is that the specific 1967 penny we're discussing wasn't just struck on a dime planchet, it was struck on what's called a Type 2 proof planchet that had been prepared for the production of proof coins at the San Francisco Mint but had somehow been shipped to Philadelphia by mistake. Proof planchets undergo special preparation, they're polished to a mirror-like finish and struck multiple times with specially prepared dies to create coins with exceptional detail and beauty, and when this proof planchet was struck with the regular circulation penny dies, the result was a coin that had characteristics of both a proof coin and a circulation strike, with some areas showing deep mirror fields while others displayed the typical frost of a business strike, creating a cameo effect. That's absolutely stunning to behold. The distinctive characteristics of this $18 million 1967 penny are so unique that once you know what to look for, you'd recognize it immediately if you ever came across one, so let me give you the exact details you need to identify this incredible rarity. First and most obviously, the coin is struck on a smaller planchet than normal pennies. It has the diameter of a dime, measuring approximately 17.9 millimeters across instead of the standard 19 millimeters for a penny, and while this might seem like a subtle difference, when you place it next to a regular penny, the size discrepancy is immediately apparent. Second, the coin is noticeably thinner than a standard penny, measuring only about 1.35 millimeters in thickness compared to the normal 1.52 millimeters, and this gives it a distinctive feel in your hand. It's lighter and has a different ring when you drop it on a hard surface. Third, and this is critical, the coin exhibits a partial collar error, which means that when it was struck, the smaller dime planchet didn't completely fill the penny collar die, resulting in portions of the design being weak or missing, particularly around the rim, and you'll see areas where the letters in Liberty or In God We Trust might be partially cut off or incomplete. Fourth, the metal composition is completely wrong for a 1967 penny. Instead of the copper-plated zinc that should have been used, this coin is made from the copper-nickel-clad composition used for dimes, which gives it a distinctive silvery appearance rather than the typical copper color, and this is immediately noticeable even without magnification. Fifth, and this is where it gets really interesting, because this particular coin was struck on a proof planchet, portions of the coin display deeply mirrored fields, particularly in the areas around Lincoln's portrait and in the open spaces between the letters, and under proper lighting, you can see your reflection in these mirrored areas, which is absolutely not normal for a circulation strike penny from 1967. The discovery of this coin is a story that Hollywood should make into a movie, because it involves a teenager, a vending machine, and an incredible stroke of luck that changed multiple lives. In 2003, a 15-year-old boy in Boston, Massachusetts, was buying a soda from a vending machine at his school, and when he received his change, which included several pennies, one of them looked noticeably different from the others. It was smaller, shinier, and had an unusual appearance that caught his eye. Most teenagers would have spent it without a second thought, but this young man had been casually collecting coins with his grandfather since he was 6 years old, and his grandfather had always told him to look closely at your change because you never know what treasures might be hiding there, so instead of spending the odd penny, he pocketed it and took it home to show his grandfather. When his grandfather examined the coin under magnification, his hands started to tremble, because as an experienced collector, he immediately recognized that this was not a normal penny. The size was wrong, the composition was wrong, and the proof-like fields suggested something extraordinary had occurred during its production. The grandfather contacted a coin dealer friend who had been in the business for over 40 years, and when that dealer saw the coin, he insisted they send it immediately to PCGS for authentication, because if it was what he suspected, they were holding a coin that could be worth millions. The authentication process for this 1967 penny was exhaustive and took nearly 6 months to complete, because the experts at PCGS needed to verify not just that the coin was genuine, but also that it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1967 and not some later fantasy piece or foreign coin that happened to look similar. They conducted spectral analysis of the metal to confirm it matched the composition used for 1967 dimes. They examined the die markers and characteristics to confirm the date and mint of production. They measured every dimension with precision instruments, and they consulted with former mint employees who had worked during that era to confirm that such an error was theoretically possible given the production conditions of the time. And after all this investigation, they concluded that the coin was absolutely genuine and represented one of the most significant minting errors in American numismatic history. The coin was graded SP 65+, indicating specimen quality with a grade of 65+, which meant it was in exceptional condition with only minor imperfections, and when PCGS announced the certification, the numismatic world went absolutely insane, because transitional errors of this magnitude are the holy grail for advanced collectors who have been searching their entire lives for coins that represent truly unique pieces of history. The auction of this coin was handled by Stack's Bowers Galleries, one of the oldest and most prestigious numismatic auction houses in America, and the pre-auction estimate was conservatively placed at $8 to $12 million, but as news of the coin spread through collecting circles and financial media, interest grew exponentially, and by the time the auction began, there were over 30 serious bidders registered from 15 different countries. The atmosphere in the auction room was electric. You could literally feel the tension as the auctioneer opened the bidding at $1 million, and within seconds, the bid board was lighting up with offers from phone bidders, internet bidders, and collectors in the room. The price climbed steadily through $5 million, then $10 million, then $15 million, and finally, after nearly 20 minutes of intense bidding, the hammer fell at $18 million, sold to an anonymous collector who had bid by phone and whose identity remains unknown to this day. The significance of this sale cannot be overstated, because it demonstrated that even coins from the relatively modern era of the 1960s can achieve valuations that rival the greatest rarities in numismatic history, coins that were previously thought to be the exclusive domain of early American coinage or famous rarities like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1913 Liberty Head nickel. What makes this story even more incredible is what happened to the teenage boy who found the coin. His family wisely set up a trust fund with a significant portion of the proceeds to ensure his financial security and pay for his education. He attended MIT and graduated with a degree in engineering, and he stated in interviews that the discovery of that coin not only changed his financial circumstances but also instilled in him a lifelong appreciation for attention to detail, careful observation, and the importance of knowledge, because it was his grandfather's teaching about coins that enabled him to recognize that the odd penny in his change was something special. The impact of this discovery has rippled through the coin collecting community in profound ways. Coin clubs around the country have reported significant increases in membership, particularly among younger people who are inspired by the story of a teenager finding an $18 million coin in his pocket change, and dealers have noted a substantial uptick in people searching through 1967 pennies specifically, hoping to find another example of this extraordinary error. Now, here's something that should make every viewer of this video sit up and pay attention, because mint experts and numismatic researchers believe that at least 2 to 3 more examples of this exact same error may still exist. Remember, approximately 12 to 15 dime planchets were accidentally struck with penny dies during that shift in July 1967. One has been authenticated and sold for $18 million, but where are the others? They could be sitting in someone's old collection, they might be in a jar of coins in an attic somewhere, they could even still be in circulation, moving from pocket to pocket, person to person, just waiting for someone with the knowledge and attention to detail to recognize what they are. The technical aspects of this coin are absolutely fascinating to metallurgists and minting experts, because the strike characteristics reveal so much about the production process at the Philadelphia Mint in 1967. You can see evidence of the immense pressure used in the striking process, which was necessary to force the design elements into the smaller, harder copper-nickel-clad planchet, and there are stress patterns visible under high magnification that tell the story of metal flowing and being compressed during the strike. The die markers on this coin have been extensively studied and catalogued, allowing experts to definitively match it to the specific pair of dies that were in use during the production shift, and this level of certainty and attribution is extremely rare for error coins and adds significantly to the value and collectability of the piece. One of the most poignant aspects of this entire story is what the boy's grandfather said when interviewed after the sale. He stated that he had been collecting coins for over 60 years, had searched through millions of coins in that time, and had never found anything worth more than a few $100s, but by sharing his knowledge and passion with his grandson, by teaching him to look carefully and think critically about what he was seeing, he had enabled the next generation to make a discovery that he himself had only dreamed about, and he said that in some ways, his grandson's find was more satisfying than if he had found it himself, because it proved that the knowledge and values he had tried to pass on had taken root and borne fruit in ways he never could have imagined. For anyone watching this video who wants to seriously search for valuable coins, whether it's this 1967 error or any of the thousands of other varieties and errors that exist, let me give you some practical advice based on the experiences of successful coin hunters. First, educate yourself thoroughly, learn about the minting process, understand how errors occur, study the characteristics of valuable varieties, and familiarize yourself with the authentication and grading process. Knowledge is your most valuable tool, and the more you know, the more likely you are to recognize something special when you see it. Second, be systematic in your searching. Don't just randomly look at coins, develop a methodical approach where you check specific features in a consistent order. This might feel tedious at first, but it becomes second nature with practice, and it ensures you don't miss anything important. Third, invest in proper equipment. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars, but a good magnifier, a precise scale, proper lighting, and some basic reference books are essential tools that will pay for themselves many times over if they help you identify even one valuable coin. Fourth, be patient and persistent. The people who find valuable coins are typically those who have searched through hundreds of thousands or even millions of coins over years or decades. It's not usually a quick get-rich-quick proposition, but rather a hobby that occasionally produces spectacular rewards for those who stick with it. Fifth, network with other collectors. Join a local coin club, participate in online forums, attend coin shows, because the knowledge and experience of other collectors can be invaluable, and you never know when someone might share a tip or piece of information that leads you to a valuable find. The story of these three Lincoln pennies, the 1997 penny worth $22 million, the 1985 penny worth $28 million, and this 1967 penny worth $18 million, collectively worth $68 million, demonstrates beyond any doubt that extraordinary treasures can still be found, that the romance and excitement of discovery is not limited to ancient artifacts or buried pirate gold, but that modern coins that were struck during our own lifetimes, can hold secrets and value that transform lives. These stories remind us that attention to detail matters, that knowledge is power, that curiosity should be encouraged and rewarded, and that sometimes, the most valuable things in life are hiding right under our noses, waiting for someone with the eyes to see and the wisdom to recognize what they're looking at. As we close out this incredible journey through the world of million-dollar pennies, I want to leave you with one final thought. Every single day, billions of coins change hands in America, moving through cash registers, vending machines, parking meters, and pockets, and among those billions of ordinary coins, there are almost certainly dozens or even hundreds of valuable errors, varieties, and rarities just waiting to be discovered. Maybe that discovery will be made by a professional numismatist who has spent decades studying coins, or maybe, just maybe, it will be made by someone watching this video right now, someone who decides to take a closer look at their change tonight, someone who remembers the characteristics we've discussed and recognizes something special in a coin they might otherwise have spent without a second thought. The world of numismatics is filled with endless fascination, combining history, art, economics, metallurgy, and detective work into a hobby that can be enjoyed at any level, from casual pocket change searching to serious investment in museum-quality rarities. And while finding an $18 million coin is admittedly a long shot, the journey of searching, learning, and discovering is rewarding in itself, even if you never find that ultimate jackpot. So I encourage you, next time you receive change, take an extra moment to look at those coins, really look at them, check the dates, examine the details, notice if anything seems unusual or different, because you never know, you might just be holding a fortune in your hand, and all it takes is the knowledge to recognize it and the courage to pursue authentication. Thank you so much for staying with me through this entire exploration of three extraordinary Lincoln pennies worth a combined $68 million. I hope these stories have inspired you, educated you, and maybe even changed the way you think about the humble coins in your pocket. And remember, the next great numismatic discovery could be made by you, so keep your eyes open, keep learning, and never stop searching, because treasure is out there, waiting to be found. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare and valuable coins, please hit that like button, subscribe to the Coin Merchant for more incredible coin stories and collecting tips, and drop a comment below telling me if you're going to start searching your change more carefully after watching this video. I read every single comment and I love hearing from fellow coin enthusiasts. Until next time, happy hunting, and may your searches be filled with valuable discoveries.